Part 1. Before the Vikings, the dark mystery of the Vendel Age. When Americans hear the word Viking, they imagine brutal raiders, burning villages, and fearless warriors crossing icy seas. But here is the shocking truth. The Vikings did not begin as Vikings. Long before the first raid on England, Scandinavia lived through a forgotten and mysterious era known as the Vendel Age c. 550 to 790 AD. This shadowy period quietly forged the most dangerous warriors Europe would ever face. In central Sweden, archaeologists uncovered something unbelievable: royal burial mounds filled with gold, advanced weapons, Roman glassware, and ceremonial helmets. These helmets looked strikingly similar to those later depicted in epic poems like Beowulf. This was no coincidence. The Vendel people were elite warrior nobles. They believed leadership came not from birth alone, but from strength, loyalty, and battle honor. Every young man grew up knowing one truth: a glorious death was better than a long, forgotten life. Even more surprising was their technology. Centuries before Viking raids, Vendel shipbuilders mastered long, narrow boats that could sail oceans and move silently through shallow rivers. These ships were not built for fishing, they were designed for speed, surprise, and control. Europe simply hadn't realized it yet. Trade during the Vendel Age stretched far beyond Scandinavia. Amber from the Baltic Sea reached the Mediterranean. Silver coins from the Islamic Caliphate traveled north. Scandinavia was already connected to the world, but watching, learning, waiting. Then came pressure. Climate shifts reduced farmland. Populations grew. Rival clans fought viciously for survival. Violence became a way of life, not an exception. Warriors who lost power at home had two choices: die fighting or leave. Religion added fuel to the fire. The Norse gods promised something no Christian priest ever could: Valhalla, a warrior's paradise where fallen fighters would feast forever with Odin himself. Fear of death disappeared. In its place grew hunger for glory. By the late 8th century, whispers spread across Scandinavian shores. Across the sea lay rich lands, soft defenses, and monasteries overflowing with silver and gold. The Vendel Age was ending. But what it created was far more terrifying, because the sons of Vendel were about to become something new, something the world would remember: Vikings.
Part 2. The Day the World Trembled. The first Viking raids, June 793 AD. On the small holy island of Lindisfarne, off the coast of England, monks were copying sacred texts in silence. They believed the sea protected them. They were wrong. Out of the morning fog came long, narrow ships low in the water, moving fast. Almost unreal. Before any alarm could be raised, armed men stormed the shore. They carried axes, spears, and shields painted with strange symbols. Within minutes, the monastery was destroyed. Monks were killed, others chained and dragged away as slaves. Gold and silver were ripped from altars. Europe was horrified. Chroniclers wrote that the fury of the Northmen fell upon the holy place like lightning. This was not just a raid, it was a message. The Vikings had arrived. What made the attack so terrifying was their unpredictability. Viking ships could strike anywhere: coasts, rivers, even deep inland. They sailed up the Seine, the Rhine, and the Thames. Cities thought safe were suddenly helpless. To Christian Europe, the Vikings seemed inhuman. They laughed in battle. They feared no death. Some believed they were punishment sent by God, but behind the terror was strategy. Viking leaders targeted monasteries first because they were rich, isolated, and poorly defended. Raiding was efficient, fast, and profitable. Success brought honor, silver, and followers back home, and success spread fast. Young men across Scandinavia heard the stories. A single voyage could turn a poor farmer into a wealthy warrior. Ships grew larger. Raids became organized campaigns. By the early 9th century, Vikings were no longer just attacking England. They struck Ireland, Scotland, Francia, and even Muslim Spain. They overwintered in enemy lands, something no raider had dared before. The line between raider and conqueror blurred. Then came a turning point. In 865 AD, a massive Viking force landed in England. Not a raid but an invasion. Chroniclers called it the Great Heathen Army. Kingdoms collapsed one after another. Only one resisted: a young, determined king named Alfred of Wessex. The future of England and Viking ambition would be decided by this struggle.
Part 3. From raiders to rulers, the Viking takeover of England. The Viking invasion of England did not end in fire and blood alone. It ended in power. After years of brutal warfare, the Great Heathen Army shattered 3 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Northumbria fell, East Anglia collapsed, Mercia broke apart. England stood on the edge of extinction. Only Wessex remained. King Alfred the Great fought back with strategy, not fear. After years of defeat and exile, he struck a decisive blow in 878 AD, forcing a Viking leader named Guthrum into a treaty. The result changed history. England was divided. The north and east became known as the Danelaw land ruled by Vikings under Viking law. This was no temporary occupation. Vikings settled permanently, bringing families, customs, and culture. And something unexpected happened. The Vikings adapted. They farmed the land. They built towns. Jorvik, modern York, became one of the richest cities in northern Europe, connected by trade routes stretching from Ireland to the Islamic world. Silver flowed in, crafts flourished. English and Norse languages mixed, shaping the future English tongue. Even American English today still carries Viking echoes. Words like law, sky, knife, husband, and window all come from Old Norse. The Viking world was expanding beyond England as well. In the West, settlers reached Iceland, creating one of the world's earliest democratic assemblies, the Althing, founded in 930 AD. Laws were spoken, not written, preserving Viking tradition. Then they went even farther. Eric the Red, exiled for murder, sailed west and discovered Greenland. His son, Leif Erikson, pushed beyond known lands and reached Vinland, modern-day North America, around the year 1000 AD. 5 centuries before Columbus, Vikings walked American soil. But expansion came with tension. Old pagan gods clashed with Christian kings. Raiding warriors clashed with farmers and merchants. Viking identity itself was changing. The age of the free raider was ending, and a new age of kings, laws, and empires was beginning.
Part 4. When the gods fell. The Christianization of the Vikings. By the late 10th century, the Viking world stood at a crossroads. 4 generations. Norse warriors had prayed to Odin, Thor, and Frey, gods who demanded courage and rewarded death in battle. Valhalla was the dream. Fear had no place in a Viking heart, but a new power was spreading across Europe. Christianity. At first, Vikings mocked it. They raided churches, broke crosses, and laughed at monks who refused to fight. Yet slowly, the tide turned, not because the old gods failed, but because kings realized something crucial. Christianity meant legitimacy. A baptized king could trade freely with Christian Europe. He could marry into powerful royal families. He could rule with written law instead of endless blood feuds. Power was no longer held by the strongest warrior but by the most recognized ruler. Conversion began at the top. In Denmark, King Harald Bluetooth declared Christianity the official faith, famously claiming he made the Danes Christian. In Norway, Olaf Tryggvason and later Olaf Haraldsson enforced conversion, sometimes violently destroying pagan temples and threatening those who refused baptism. In Sweden, change came slower, but it came all the same. Pagan rituals faded, sacred groves were cut down, churches rose where sacrifices once burned. The Viking gods did not disappear overnight, but their world was shrinking. This transformation changed Viking warfare. Raiding declined as centralized kingdoms emerged. Armies replaced bands of warriors. Laws replaced revenge. Trade replaced terror. Scandinavia became part of medieval Europe. Yet the Viking spirit was not gone. One man embodied the last flame of the old world: Harald Hardrada, a legendary warrior who had fought as a mercenary in the Byzantine Empire. Hardrada returned to Norway wealthy, ruthless, and ambitious. He believed destiny still favored the bold. In 1066, he launched an invasion of England seeking to reclaim Viking dominance one final time. It would be his last gamble, because while the Viking world had changed, England was ready. In Part 5, one battle will end the Viking Age forever.
Part 5. The Fall of the Vikings and the Legacy That Never Died. In September 1066, near a quiet bridge in northern England, the Viking Age met its end. King Harald Hardrada of Norway, known as the Last Viking, had invaded England with a massive army. He believed the old gods or fate itself still favored bold warriors. At first, victory seemed certain. Then came the English king, Harold Godwinson. After marching his army nearly 200 miles in just days, Harold surprised the Vikings at Stamford Bridge. The Viking army, caught unprepared, fought fiercely, but it was not enough. Harold Hardrada was struck down by an arrow to the throat. The Viking dream died with him. Within weeks, England would face another invasion, the Normans, but this time the attackers were no longer true Vikings. They were Christian kings shaped by Viking blood, not Viking belief. The Viking Age was over, yet the Vikings themselves did not vanish. They became the medieval kingdoms of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. Their warriors turned into nobles. Their longships became trade vessels. Their laws formed the foundations of Scandinavian democracy. Their influence reached far beyond Europe. In England, Viking language reshaped English speech. In Russia, Viking Varangians helped build early states. In North America, their brief presence proved something extraordinary, that the Atlantic could be crossed centuries before modern navigation. Even modern America carries Viking echoes through language, law, exploration, and the enduring fascination with freedom and courage. The Vikings were never just raiders. They were builders, explorers, lawmakers, and kings. From the hidden Vendel Age to the rise of Christian Scandinavian kingdoms, their story is not one of savagery but of transformation. A people shaped by the sea, driven by honor, and remembered forever. The longships are gone, but the legacy sails on.